Hey friends, welcome to the Missiongathering Charlotte podcast. We're all about love, justice, and building a community where everyone belongs. No exceptions. So whether you're questioning, deconstructing, or just looking for a fresh take on faith, you're in the right place. Each episode, we dive into real conversations, inspiring messages, and the kind of faith that moves beyond words and into actions. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's do this together.
While Jesus and his disciples were traveling, Jesus entered a village where a woman named Martha welcomed him as a guest. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his message. By contrast, Martha was preoccupied with getting everything ready for their meal. So Martha came to him and said, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to prepare the table by myself? Tell her to help me." The Lord answered, "Martha, Martha, you're worried and distracted by many things. One thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the better part. It won't be taken away from her." Luke 10, verses 38 through 42. From the Common English Bible translation. Mary has chosen the better part. In the Greek text, Jesus says Mary has chosen the good portion or the good part. For the time that is ours to share, I'll speak with you along the topic, the good part. As we journey through this Lent season, we're faced with the complex beauty of the in-between. What it means to embrace being neither here nor there, this or that, and the power that can be found in paradox. Swiss psychiatrist and psychotherapist Carl Jung is credited for saying the paradox is one of our most valuable spiritual possessions. Only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life. Life is filled with in-between moments, and I'm convinced that in every in-between, there are lessons to be learned about one another, God, and ourselves. The in-between teaches us to appreciate both and. It frees us from the restrictions of binary thinking and opens us up to the possibilities of the paradox. And so when we look at this account of Mary and Martha, perhaps the question is not Mary or Martha, right or wrong, good or bad. Maybe the lesson is to appreciate both their stances and see how between them there's an amazing intersection between faith and work. In fact, there is something to be learned from both Mary and Martha, significance in both of their expressions, and value in both of their stories. There is value in the life and the telling of the story of Martha, the female disciple and keeper of the house, who cooks, cares for, and serves Jesus when he comes to visit. But Martha has been for ages criticized and villainized, not because she lacks value, not because she is unfruitful or does not contribute to the cause of Christ, but because she's a woman with the heart to say something. She would have been fine to serve and suffer in silence. But she's the kind of woman that speaks up, the kind of woman that might be seen today as difficult and disruptive. And thank God some of us have learned to celebrate and appreciate disruptive women with voices. So let's take this pause in Women's History Month to celebrate and salute all of the women who have found the boldness to say something, the women who are problematic to patriarchy and disruptive to systems of oppression. Women like the Reverend Dr. Gina Stewart, president of the historic Lot Carey Baptist Foreign Mission Society, and the first woman to preach at the National Baptist Joint Board session, who stood up in a room full of well-wishers and critics alike, many of whom thought she shouldn't even be speaking based on her gender alone, and challenged them to stop using spirituality as a smokescreen. She says if you are a sexist, just say that. If you're racist, say that. If you're homophobic, say that, but stop using spirituality as a smokescreen. She says something. Women like Bishop Marianne Edgar Buddy, the first female bishop of the Washington Diocese of the Episcopal Church, who, when invited to an interfaith inaugural prayer service, addressed the current sitting president with this final plea. He says, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared. Going on to say that there are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. As great women tend to do, she spoke up for the marginalized, disenfranchised, and othered. And because she had the holy boldness to say something, like Martha, she was villainized. But I'm glad she said something. Women like Fannie Lou Hamer, the civil rights leader and activist, who in the face of segregation and systematic injustices aimed at Black people in the Jim Crow South, says something that I believe Martha could relate to. As she tended tables and anticipated the needs of everybody present without so much as a helping hand. Fannie Lou says, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I believe Martha was tired. She's tired because she's a doer. She expresses her faith and solidarity with the mission of Christ through her commitment to doing the work. Martha has invited Jesus into her home. And you know how Jesus traveled. He's noted to travel at any given time with at least 12 people and likely to show up with even more people. And so to welcome Jesus is to welcome all those who come with him and those that he will bid to come. But Martha takes care of the people. Martha is the one who does the work to make sure that everyone is all right. Her work is not self-serving or idle, but for the good of everyone around her. In the Greek, her work is described as diakonia. This is the root word for our English term deacon. The Greek word diakonia means ministry or service. Martha is doing ministry, but ministry can be tiring. Martha is tired, and I believe it's her tiredness, her frustration with doing the work that drives her to say something. I'm glad she says something, but she doesn't just say something, she asks a question. She looks at Jesus and asks him, do you care? And if you haven't been there yet, just keep living and working, and you just might find yourself in a situation where not only you have some questions for God, but they just might be questions like, do you even care? looking at the state of the world and this nation in particular might just cause you to ask, do you care? Do you care that there are children afraid to attend school for fear of being torn away from their families? Do you care that human rights are being treated as privileges and the privileged refuse to do right? Do you care that the words diversity, equity, and inclusion have been deemed bad words in a country built on stolen labor and ran on the sweat of immigrants? Do you even care? But I know he cares. And Martha knew he cared because she doesn't wait for an answer. Rather, she goes on to say, tell her to help me. See, Martha's tired question was essentially a cry for help. She's so passionate about the work she's doing that she makes no mention or threat of quitting. But it sure would be nice to have some help. And you would think, in light of the fact that it was Jesus that caused her to be in this predicament in the first place, he would have at least sent Mary to help. Here is Mary sitting attentively at the feet of Jesus, seeming to be doing nothing, oblivious to the commotion around her, the rattling of cups, the clinking of plates, the sound of side conversations, and even her sister's cry for help. Yet Jesus does not interrupt her. Not only did Jesus not interrupt her, but he validates her position. He says, Mary has chosen the good part. With regard to the text, the good part refers to Mary's willingness to sit at the feet of Jesus and be taught. In our modern culture, the good part would be the part of the book that almost causes us to read out loud as the scene plays in the cinema of our minds. It's the part of the movie that we recite at random among friends. For me, it's the corner part of the macaroni and cheese when it's cooled just right. That's the good part. And if you're not careful, you hear the good part and think that the rest is bad. But the good part, on the contrary, just makes the rest even better. Perhaps in my attempt to redeem Martha's narrative, it may seem like I have now set the stage to make Mary the villain who sits and does nothing and is praised, while Martha does all the work only to be rebuked. But here is the power of the in-between. The position that Mary occupies at the feet of Jesus culturally would have been reserved only for a man. Most of the teachers of their day wouldn't even allow her to be there, yet here is Mary. Her very existence in the space she's occupying is an act of resistance. Her presence is defiance. And so perhaps when Jesus says, Martha, Martha, it's not a rebuke or reprimand for her work or her request for help, but an invitation to share in the good part. And now my prayer for you, beloveds, that have worked and toiled and now find yourself tired, is that you will also find the courage to allow yourself to cross into your Mary era, to see that both your work and your rest are sacred, and that your very existence is a powerful act of defiance. And so, beloveds, may it be so. Amen. Friends, may it be so. Amen.
Thank you again for joining us here on the Missiongathering Christian Church podcast. If you want to support this podcast or our community here in Charlotte, you can give through our Cash App, which is at MG Charlotte, or our Venmo, which is at MG Charlotte, or by going to www.missiongathering.com/Charlotte and clicking on the give button. And that can help us keep this going. But one of the easiest ways for you to support this podcast is to share it with your friends, family, and neighbors. Again, thank you so much, and may God bless you.